is Rock and Roll Grad School with your hosts, Heidi Hedquist and Luke Poling. They seem to have an invisible touch, yeah.
Hello, kiddies. We are going to have a real good time together. We are talking with Nonstop to Cairo, which, apart from travel plans,
yes,
is a fun little band.
And a fun name for a band.
It is. It's a good one.
It's a cool, which we didn't really talk to them about that, but we had a good conversation.
Yeah, we really ran right past that one.
I know, that's weird. That's not like us.
No.
That's
So
right.
they have a new album, Kai, that is out, and it's very catchy, and it's a fascinating story of tragedy and redemption and all good things, and all things probably we all know something about in some form or another.
Yeah, the conversation's not a downer. Neither is the
No,
other.
we should. True. So I've been reading a lot about this artist who's recently been rediscovered, and the way everyone phrases it is sort of like, "Oh my God, have you heard this woman's records?" As if they discovered it. So I'm trying to present this to you as I am not that person. I listened to this. I liked it. The story is suddenly getting a lot of press. There's a new biography that just came out. Connie Converse, familiar with her work?
Nope.
So she is thought to be possibly the first singer-songwriter ever, basically.
Wow.
In the 50s, 60s era of folk music. Lived in New York for like a decade, wrote and recorded a bunch of songs on both guitar and piano. Most of them were recorded like in a friend's kitchen or living room.
Okay.
And no one really knows much about her life. In 1974, she packed all of her things into a Volkswagen and drove off and was never heard from again.
Okay.
Her brother, the whole family, I guess, was sort of like, well, she doesn't want us to talk to us, doesn't want to talk to us, so we'll just let her be. But over the years, in 2008 or 2009, two guys who had heard one of her records on a radio show tracked this all down, tracked down her brother, and put out an album of her songs recorded in this living room. It's amazing. It's really, really great, fascinating. And I mean, the fact that it's got this sort of eerie story behind it, it's all very traditional folk, but there's different stuff she's doing in it. It's really, really lovely.
So just no one knows if she's alive or dead?
Correct.
Wow.
And so there is a new book about her that just came out this week, titled, I should have had this pulled up. Reloading. So there's a new book about her that just came out called To Anyone Who Ever Asks. It is fascinating. I am tearing through this thing and just super interesting. Wow. If you're looking for some fun, no, I'm sorry, not fun. Incredibly intimate, personal sounding records. It's very, very good stuff.
All right.
So that's what I've been listening to. My reaction has been strong, and I really like this, but not as strongly as this woman at the LA Symphony, which we should also discuss.
Wait, what?
I sent you the link. The woman who they believe had an orgasm.
Oh, yes.
The LA Symphony's performance. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Sorry. I buried the lead.
You did bury the lead.
So I think we need to I feel like it's more of a tip of a cap than what the hell.
Oh, I totally agree.
Like, I wish I could enjoy music that much.
Absolutely. Like, isn't that what music's supposed to do, is make you feel something?
I would hope so.
Right?
Apparently they have not identified her.
Okay, wait. But yeah. Well, why have they not?
What?
Nothing.
Apparently it was basically during a performance of the LA Symphony.
Right.
And it seems like afterwards, a bunch of the orchestra, or I guess that'd be symphony, bunch of the symphony and audience members kind of looked around and were like, did what happened during the show that I thought happened really happen? And at that point, I mean, obviously it's dark, no one, and it was just sort of And she got off into the night, no pun intended, and probably went to a jazz club and had a really great night.
Right.
Some sort of after
Smoke,
hours thing.
smoke some cigarettes.
Oh my God, I'm surprised she didn't light up in the theater, frankly.
I don't know. I feel like the jazz clubs for the cigarettes, like this the afterglow, a little petit
Right,
more kind of
true.
thing, right?
Yeah, good point.
I
So,
mean, whatever it takes to get people back into classical music. Right?
any means necessary, of course. So I
Yes.
feel like this week is a story of three different types of appreciation of music and
This
the
is true.
connections made by music.
Mhm.
And I feel like that's such a nice little bow on it. We should all take a bow and just
Saunter our way out of here.
something like that.
Something like that.
I still feel awkward in social situations, but I've done my time enough to have the patience and I'm on my
So
way.
congratulations on the record. This is album number 2, correct?
That is correct.
Yes.
So obviously, the title of the album, how do you pronounce the title of the album? Do you call it KAI or Kai?
We do call it Kai.
Okay.
It is an acronym for our brother and our band member Kevin Anand Itwar, who tragically passed away prior to all this being put down. But this record and this project in its entirety is a celebration of his life and life in general.
It must be kind of bittersweet to be on the eve of this record coming out, being done with it, having this celebration, and the music is all very upbeat. I mean, like you said, it's a tribute, but it's a kind of tribute I think anybody would want, something that's so positive and empowering and encouraging.
Well, I appreciate that,
Yeah.
Luke. I would say in a way that's kind of what makes this very relatable.
Mhm.
This project in its entirety, we feel like it's something that is for the common individual person who wakes up in the morning to make it to go to sleep at night. Everything in between that is ups and downs. And then you try to wake up to do it again the next day.
Yeah, and how did you guys get together? Because it is such a fascinating, like people always say, oh, this is a band that we do things differently or we sound different. But like you guys legit, like it's ska, there's some hip hop, there's punk, there's this really great mixture of everybody kind of bringing their own 2 cents to the table.
Yeah. So we all do come from somewhat separate backgrounds. Like me, I grew up loving metal. I was a metal kid. I came from metal bands, but I also, listened to all kinds of other music growing up because of my father, who was in a band growing up. Ash came from alternative rock, growing up, and like Rage Against the Machine, 311, stuff like that. And then obviously he went down to Florida and he was touring doing hip hop stuff for a while. So when the band got back together around 2009, all these sounds just kind of like came together. We all have a common like Red Hot Chili Peppers, Sublime 311 connection that runs pretty strong throughout all the members of the group, and then there's the branched off of really everything else. And we don't limit it. We don't limit ourselves to trying to fit a mold, basically.
Well, how does that all, when you're all in the room together, like how does that all come together, right? You're bringing all these vibes and sounds from all these different things in this melting pot at once. Is it just everyone's just kind of going and then something just kind of comes out as the lead, so this one's going to kind of feel a little bit more this way? Or is it just like, oh, you know what, we've been given like the ska side a lot of love, let's spend some time on our hip hop love right now?
It's so strange you put it that way, because it's exactly that. In the process of when bands in general have a a little bit of time together, and it's just that musicality and the aspect of creativity, you get these pockets where it'll be a mash of stuff. It'll just be you jamming, and in the jam, all of a sudden, you're kind of all looking around in the room, and you're like, yeah, wait, this piece right here, this sounds really, really good. Maybe we could do something with it. And we could come from that aspect of it. Others has been Nick coming into the room and been like, I woke up last night in the middle of the night and this came out of nowhere and I just want to play it and see what you guys think. And then something cultivates out of that. So yeah, you're right. There are these like little pockets of inspiration when we're all together in a room and just jamming and getting out our angst, our anxieties, our emotions, just what was going on in the ups and downs of that day. And it ends up coming out pretty cool when you can snatch a couple of things and create something from that.
Well, people always talk about the fact that like, oh, I wrote this thing, I had this hook or I had this line that I couldn't wait to bring to the rest of the group and see where they'd take it. I feel like listening to the record, there are songs where I'm like, you guys must have been salivating to be like, I cannot wait to show this to the rest of the group and see where they take it, because it's going to go somewhere that I'm not expecting in the best way possible.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. The guys that are in the group that worked on this album are so inspirational to work with. So you kind of already in your head are like playing it through, like, oh man, what kind of beat is Alex gonna play on this riff that I wrote? What is Eddie gonna lay down on the bass? What is Ash gonna be able to come up with lyrically over this section? So I kind of I'll fantasize about it in my head a little bit, going one way maybe, and maybe sometimes it does go that way, and then sometimes it goes completely the other way, so that's the great thing about the collaboration of the four of us right now. We've been doing it for quite some time, so we kind of know what we want. We know what we want. We never go into a project, I wouldn't say trying to accomplish any certain sound. We're not like, oh, we got to write a ska song, or we just let whatever song is most prevalent to us at that time and which feels the best, whatever direction it might be, like, let's go with that one, and then boom, that's added to the list, so and a lot of fun to work with.
Yeah. And like most bands, it's, obviously there's some years between records and everyone kind of changes and grows and gets better at what they're doing and refines it all. How much did the pandemic give you guys even more time to sit around and really refine these songs, or be like, no, this one's not good enough, we got to keep going? Did you have that, or was it just like, we got these songs that are just, we cannot wait to get them to tape because they're right where we want them?
Ash, go ahead.
The way I can put that to you, Luke, is 2020 we were ready to record and get into the studio and kind of put together what would, I guess, have been Kai, maybe named something different at that time, but in that time we actually had lost our bandmate and our brother, who we named this particular project after, Kevin Anand Itwaru, to suicide and issues with mental health. So that transpired in 2020, about a week and a half, 2 weeks before they shut down New York.
Oh, wow. That must have made it that much harder than, that's already incredibly difficult to try to wrap your mind around and have a band to continue after that too.
It made for a lot of questions. A lot of things were in the dark at that time. aside from the world.
Right.
Yeah, certainly.
What was going on. Nick and I had a lot of talks in the studio that used to be full of so much music. I can recall a time for probably a streak of 7 years. We were in that studio Monday, Thursday, and Sunday every week, 4 years consistently. And to see that kind of transition into absolutely nothing, because you didn't know what was going on for countless months. It was a big blow.
Yeah.
We didn't know what to think. Venues were closed. You couldn't make any money. So it's kind of like, well, what are we all doing? And that question, I'm assuming, came up for a lot of musicians, but not only that, just a lot of people in their daily lives, especially it being New York, Long Island, like,
right.
Yeah.
we know where we live.
Yes.
It's something that really, you know, I think the world was asking themselves, the workforce was asking themselves, and we're here, 2023, at the beginning of this release that's happening tomorrow. And I'm very, very happy, me personally. And I could say Nick as well, that we made this decision to stick through and not only do this for ourselves, but, you know, do this for Kevin and do this for anybody else who's gone through a lot, and, you know, for the ones who didn't make it.
Well, and, you know, and so much of what you're talking about, obviously the whole world had this like unified grief, but you had this personal grief that you guys were dealing with before all of that hit. And that's even 1,000 times harder, because you're not able, like, you're going through this and you don't even have time for, not that when you're grieving, you want people to feel sorry for it, but you don't have, no one's, because everyone just suddenly in like 2 days, they're going through their own, and you can't.
Yeah.
So on top of that, so how do you go through all of that, plus the not knowing if you can work, not knowing if you can make music, all those things? Well, that's all simultaneously happening to come out on the other side and make something that is so upbeat and positive and a celebration. And like, how did that evolve? How did that happen?
I mean, for a minute there, we were doing a couple of Zoom calls as Zoom came into everybody's lives around the same time, you know, and maybe it manifested in a practice at a park, you know, that we had never done before, just going out into the woods, and are we wearing masks while we meet in the park? And I don't know, do we shake hands? You know, I don't even know, but it actually, you know, it wound up eventually, because we were going through the recording kind of really unsure of what we were doing still, but it eventually brought the band kind of back together to be the unit that we needed to make it a full-length album, and not just a couple of singles that, you know, we were going to release as a single thing. So you know, in the end, it made us a stronger unit, and we had a goal set to keep the project going. You know, that was we wanted to do. We started it with Kevin. Kevin was very excited about the project. You know, we were meeting with studios and you know, so in our heads it was like, this is something to keep us going. Like, this project will, like Ash said, you know, we were questioning it at points while we're sitting there in the studio kind of by ourselves for a little while there.
Yeah.
But we knew what we wanted to do. So we knew, all right, it may take a little while. And the songs, you know, some of them did need more time to develop into what they, and, you know, overall became on the album. So I will say, I think everything, you know, happened with the album the way it needed to.
Yeah.
And it seems too that like, I think you said sort of like, everyone came out a little bit stronger than this, but I think it's so interesting that given everything you guys as a band, as a group of friends have been through in the past 2-3 years, the fact that you come out with something that, to me, not knowing the full backstory, seems very positive and I don't want to say like upbeat and encouraging and sort of the type of thing that, I don't want to say help somebody, but like it says a lot about your overall outlook and demeanor that
Mhm.
given everything you've been through, you guys still come out and like, this is a fun record. And like, it's not, like lest anyone think you guys are making, Metal Machine music too. Like this is a fun record.
Yeah.
And it's just so interesting. The fact that you guys come out of such a dark and difficult period was something that is so positive. Has that always been your outlook on life and art? Or obviously
Well,
you've had your dark, afternoons of the soul, certainly.
oh, I think you have to be healthy.
Hmm.
You got to have your ups and your downs, mentally, physically, everything, to really know what the good is,
Right.
and have something to shoot for. You can't just always feel good all the time. But Nonstop to Cairo has kind of always been built on perseverance and keeping going. And I don't know how many people know, but a very early stage of the group is, right before Ash joined, we were a 3-piece rock band, and I had a tragic accident with a certain table saw and did some major damage to my hand,
Mm.
to a point where I didn't know if I was going to be able to play at a certain point. And I just wouldn't give it up. I had certain people in my life that were keeping it very positive. And within 3 months of the accident, I was starting to fiddle around with the guitar again, and I had been writing songs on the keyboard, maybe a little depressing songs, but whatever it was to
You got to get it out of your system.
Right.
to get me through it at that point.
Mhm.
And then what happened was the band had to shift gears a little bit because I was writing different songs. I wasn't writing the technical rock metal songs that we had come from a little bit. And we added horns a little more. We had dabbled with horns a little bit. And then
Everyone's
just at the
dabbled with
right
horns
time,
at some point in their life. Let's be honest.
right around that time, Ash came back from Florida, and I'll let him walk through his experience of walking into the Nonstop studio, because I would say at that point is when Nonstop became the band that you hear today, right there.
Well, Ash, off of that, have you guys gotten a chance to play these songs live? And
Actually,
it's
it's very funny you say that, Luke. We just did this past week. We had our album release party out at Dublin Deck in Patchogue, Long Island. Wow. I have never, well, if anybody knows of what happened last weekend, I haven't seen that much rain in a very, very long time. And it's an outdoor
Of course.
venue, of course. They were very quick to adapt to everything. They had tents set up for the merch. They had tents set up for the vendors that were there. It was done with Statfest for a Hemp Fest festival and our album release. And I think I laughed with Nick on the stage before we started performing. I kind of pulled him aside and just mentioned that, you know, this is such a thing Kevin would have laughed at, because it's that adversity. Like, what are we doing out here in torrential downpouring rain in an outdoor venue trying to put a show on?
Of course, right.
You know something, when you looked across from you standing on that stage, and even though 500 people were supposed to be there, those 80 people that packed out that tent, that were just rocking with us, it was unbelievable. And now I know Kevin laughing about that later on, because of that's that adversity. That's exactly what he's always spoken about. That's what this project represented. And seeing those people out there, it just made it one of the best shows we've ever had, honestly. And we definitely felt that feedback with, you know, merch, the new merch being picked up, with just responses on Instagram and the DMs and on Facebook. And it's just being very well received. Even newer music that we're already recording since Kai has been finished is just being very well received. And I think we're on a really good pace to something very cool and very special.
Well, that experience, that shared experience with that audience, they will never forget that. And you'll never forget it. Like, they are fans for life, and you've been through the great flood together. So
literally,
you know, you're going to be together. They're going to be at every show.
And, you know, we appreciate that from the bottom of our hearts, because it's been quite some time since we've dropped some new material. But, you know, Nick and I and the guys, we promise it will never be this long of a hiatus of time. We already have some things in the works, so very excited.
Plus, there's nothing more badass than a concert in like crazy weather. I mean, that is like iconic. So
the people came out.
Yes, for sure.
The people came out.
What I look like, laid back with my feet up. And they eat our dust when you're following the leaders. Curse of the ghost flow, you can never see us. Just saying that they bang, man, that's on the appeal. Diamond flooded pieces, catch a fever off a chest cold. Phone jack jumping, burning minutes in my cell zone. I was late night, OT in a hoodie. Now that money dances turn into a constant boogie.
Hi, the new album by Nonstop to Cairo is available right now wherever you get your records. For more information, you can check them out on Facebook, where they're at facebook.com/nonstop to Cairo, or you can follow them on Instagram, where they're at Nonstop to Cairo.
You can check us out on all the various socials. Be sure to visit our website at rockandrollgradschool.com, and don't forget to leave us a review.
Today's show is produced by myself and Heidi Hedquist. Our reluctant producers are John Sauvé and Sandy Stone. Our willing producers are Rachel Allen and Randy Jeanette. Our intern is Zach Jackson. This one's for Philippe. Thank you, good night, and may all your favorite bands stay together.
It's looking kinda great. Money, money, money. Got it filling up my bank. And my mama straight. She ain't gotta work a day. Keeps my conscience clean from all the sacrifices made. But as that money coming in, twice as fast going.